Welcome to Bookish Talk, the show that encourages bookish readers and empowers inspiring authors. Thank you so much for choosing to spend your time with us today. I'm Paula Shepard, and I am honored to co-host this show with my friend and published author, Devin Galladay. How are you, Devin?
I'm working it out and I'm ready for a great episode. How are you doing, Paula?
Oh my gosh, I'm really, really excited about today. We have so much in store for all of our viewers, so definitely stay tuned. So I'm wondering, have you heard of Booktok? Not TikTok, Booktok.
Oh, yeah, no, that sounds like for young people.
So I had just recently heard of Booktok. So it is the go-to hashtag for all of the content that would pertain to books or reading or writing and everything in between. They do book reviews, writing tips. There's plot reenactments of all kinds of popular novels and more. This corner of TikTok encourages and inspires others to enjoy literature in all of its forms. So this Booktok is about seeing more young people embrace reading than ever before, translating into shops full of teenagers and young adults in a trend not seen since the heyday of J.K. Rowling and Harry Potter. So these shops themselves, book through book browse, are getting in on the act and creating their own TikTok accounts. Devin, this is definitely good news for Bookish Talk because our mission is to enlighten more readers.
Yeah, no, I love this, Paula. And there is more good news just in general for books. According to the Association of American Publishers, total net book sales in 2021 in the US rose 12.2% to 15.4 billion in comparison to 2020. In December, total net book sales were up 2.8% to 1.1 billion. Also, leading library service provider Overdrive, which is an organization that helps businesses create digital book collections for the library system, reported a total of 121 public libraries across 7 countries and 37 US states surpassed 1 million digital lens in 2021, which is great news.
Wow, those are some incredible statistics. So I want to reflect, if we can, on our first 3 episodes, Devin. So in episode 1, 2, and 3, you shared 10 reasons why reading is important, 5 reasons why writing is paramount, and how to come up with the best book title for your book. So if you are watching today and you haven't had the opportunity to see those first 3 enlightening episodes, we encourage you to go watch them on demand at e360tv.com. Devin and I are going to share with you the 9 steps to writing your own book. Here are just a few things to consider before you start work on your book idea. Do you have the time and mental energy to commit to writing a whole book? That is the first question to ask yourself. You should be willing and able to stick to a daily writing schedule and sacrifice anything else in the process for your writing. Number 2, are you prepared to develop potentially unfamiliar skills like self-editing and rewriting? Because writing a new book will often expose your strengths and your weaknesses. And a lot of times you'll be devoted to refining those skills. Number 3, do you have a basic grasp of your main characters, the plot, or your subject matter? You don't have to have everything worked out, but it is always helpful to have a reasonable idea of the shape and direction of your book before you actually get started. So, Devin, will you share with us the top 9?
So I'm going to share these 9 with the understanding is that each one of these 9, we can go into all kinds of great depth and length, and we probably will down the road. But just understand we're taking some really large concepts and we're kind of making a ragu sauce out of them and really condensing things. So just keep that in mind. So let's just jump right in. So number one, establish a consistent writing space. If you're going to write a great book, you're going to need a space in which to write it. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be a soundproof room with a stunning view. If you've got one, giant thumbs up for you. But really, all you need is a quiet space that's somewhat fairly free of distractions where you can consistently get writing done. By the way, it doesn't necessarily need to be one place as long as you feel comfortable doing it. So this could be a home office, your couch, a coffee shop. The environment where you work should allow you to focus. The ideal would be uninterrupted for hours at a time. I'm going to talk more about this later in the show, but at least this is the starting point. And so personally, I write in the library. I'm a huge fan because in general, it's quiet. In general, I have space. And if I need to research something, it's right in front of me. Number two, hone in on your book idea. Perhaps you already know precisely from beginning to end what your book is going to be about. Or maybe you're just trying to decide between a million different giant ideas. Maybe all you have is an image in a book cover in the back of your head. No matter what it is, ask yourself a few simple questions before you start. What's your book about? Why is the story interesting or important? Because at some point you have that invisible contract with the reader. They need to find it interesting or important, or your book is not going to get read. What attracted you to this idea in the first place? Who will want to read my book? And by the way, if you're putting together a book proposal, this is really important. If you're still searching for a book idea or struggling with writer's block, try using writing prompts. Something to get started. One of the things that I do is I read something along the lines. In other words, when I wrote 10,000 Miles with My Dead Father's Ashes, obviously about somebody's death, I decided to end up doing some reading and some research into people who had similar stories to mine so I could see what they did well and what maybe I could improve upon. Number three, outline your story. Some writers spend plenty of time outlining before writing their books. Outlines can be as detailed as complete and thorough chapter breakdowns or simple bullet points in which each section of the book is plotted out. They can be visual maps that serve as a graphic representation of where your book is headed, regardless of your method. It's important to have a roadmap for your future writing sessions. Personally, I use Post-it notes and a big cardboard where I literally lay out chapter ideas, and then I will shuffle them around if I want to, move something from, let's say, chronological order to some other new order that may, include fast forwards or flashbacks. Number four, do your research. You are likely to want to spend time in libraries and archives learning everything you can about your subject, particularly for nonfiction books. But this isn't true for everything. Just research in general is helpful for fiction writers too, as it provides a helpful context for time period or character development that you're writing about. Read books that cover subject matter similar to yours, as I was just describing. Research can take many, many forms. So listen to podcasts, watch reality television for character development, get creative about learning who and what you're writing about. You can do this. And number five, start writing and stick to a routine. Research, outlining, and idea development are all critical steps to writing your book. But there may come a time when preparation becomes procrastination. At a certain point, it's just time to begin your writing and write your rough draft. This requires committing to consistent writing routines and productive writing habits. But these are ideals. So be kind to yourself. If all of a sudden you get a wild desire to write and you write, let's say you write your outline, be nice to yourself. It's okay that, let's say if you write once a week or once a month or whatever it is, just know that you're moving yourself forward. So, if nothing else, try setting daily word count targets to keep yourself on track. Schedule writing time. Like I have a thing on my phone that is absolutely going to ring. Schedule writing time and put it in your calendar so you won't skip it. ask a friend to maybe be your accountability buddy, or find a fellow writer, find somebody on Facebook, send them updates on how much you plan on writing every single day. My favorite is I created a writers group in my living room. And this is what I did. And this was pre-COVID, but we've now moved on to Zoom. But at the time when we started this, and I've been doing this now for 10 years, is I would have folks show up. I would tell them to bring snacks because I was hungry. And it was the thing to do. Like it all worked itself out. And really, like in that writers group, we've had like 7 different people finish their books and get it published, including my own. And so this is, it's important stuff. And that's what we did.
I love the idea of bringing people together, or even in this day and age, the digital day and age, of finding a time slot to have people even get on a Zoom and turn their cameras off and spend an hour writing at the same time as accountability. I think that's really genius, honestly. Because there's so many times that I've heard people say, I want to write a book, but they skip that slot in their calendar.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, on a very, very personal level, what I ended up doing was I used them as accountability. Like there would be a week or a day or whenever where I just didn't feel like writing. I just didn't want to. That's all. I knew I should. I didn't want to. There was, something on television. I just didn't feel like doing it. But I knew that every Thursday at 7:00, people were showing up at my house with snacks, and I couldn't let them down. And so that was really what the accountability was all about.
Amazing. So now that we've gone through the start of those steps, we're going to continue the rest of the 9 when we come back from break and introduce the topic, book collaborations.
Hi, I'm Juston Wilder, and my writing tip would be a lot like the advice I give about working out, is that there's going to be days you wake up and you really don't want to write, but the important thing is to those days even push yourself a little bit harder, because often those are the days when you have the best writing.
Hey everyone, this is Amy Harmon, and my writing tip is to write what you're crazy about, what you're passionate about. And don't worry about if it sells or if it's going to sell or if it's the next popular thing. Just write what you're passionate about.
My name's Emily, and my writing tip is to edit more than once.
Hi, my name's Jack Wilder, and my writing tip is to use he said and she said as little as possible. Instead, try to use like stage direction, like he touched his face or she sighed. Makes your writing a lot stronger and makes the dialogue snappier.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Yaros. My writing tip would be to find your routine. I sit down with a cup of coffee and a glass of ice water, and I can't seem to write without that, so find the routine that works for you, a quiet space, your favorite playlist, and write on.
Hi, I'm Shay Savage, and my writing tip for everyone today is to write what you know. If you have to spend a whole lot of time researching a particular topic, whether it's a type of character or an activity, you might want to consider going towards something that you are already very familiar with, so you can spend all that time getting the feelings and the emotions of what goes on with that activity instead of researching the basics.
Hi, my name is Misha Elliott, and my writing tip is to write every day.
Hi, I'm Mia Sheridan, and my writing tip is to pay attention to what you really love to read. Don't worry so much about what people might want or what's popular, because what you're going to do best is what you really love to read, and do it in the way that only you can do it.
My writing tip is to revise a lot. This is the 6th draft that went into final publication. I deleted about 70,000 words and rewrote it, and it ended up winning the Best Erotic Romance Award from RT Book Lovers magazine on the 6th draft. Not the first draft, the 6th draft. So don't be afraid to delete and rewrite. That's me.
Hey, I'm Casey Bond. My writing tip is fully develop your characters. They will lead you everywhere you need to go.
Maya Angelou stated, "The life is not measured by the number of breaths we take, but by the moments that take our breath away. Encourage, enlighten, empower."
Welcome back to Bookish. Today we're sharing 9 steps to writing your first book, and Devin has already covered establishing a consistent writing space, honing in on your book idea, outlining your story, doing your research, and starting to write and sticking to a routine. So what's up next, Devin?
There's a lot. So really, like I didn't say it before, but everybody should probably take some notes. And honestly, like I wish I had this stuff when I got started. But that all said, number 6, finish your first draft. Seriously, just finish. Tell your unvarnished truth, get the whole thing down on paper, and just keep going. You can do this. This is to some degree a war of attrition. If you have a challenging time, you are just a writer, and it's okay. So as you're writing your first draft, for sure, 100%, you are going to have bouts of self-doubt, lack of motivation, and writer's block, which we're probably going to do shows on all of these topics at one time or another. All of these are part of the normal writing process. Whenever you feel stuck, try going back to your outline or research for inspiration. Try to manage your expectations. That's a big thing because we see famous writers and we assume they just churn out books, and that is absolutely not the case. Your first book might not be a generational masterpiece or a New York Times bestseller, but you never know. Don't compare yourself with literary greats or anyone else. You'll be doing your work a disservice. Just keep doing it. You can do this. Revise, this is number 7, revise and edit. Every good book goes through many rounds of revisions. Matter of fact, over the commercial, somebody was mentioning that. For me, it was as little as 2, where I felt like I absolutely nailed the chapter, or as many as 11, which means I did not nail the chapter. You can endure the editing process yourself. I don't know if I'd recommend that, but you can, or ask a friend or a professional editor to help. Matter of fact, what I would recommend is getting a pro who is not emotionally attached to your sort of like your feelings, if you will. In other words, somebody just needs to tell you the truth sometimes. Not everybody's right. Ultimately, you're going to make the final decision, but you should keep your ear open. No matter what you decide, you need to have an honest, ruthless eye on your writing so that you can know what needs reworking. Look for sentences that rely on cliche or common descriptions. That gets really boring really fast. And you get to be creative. That's the joy of writing. If you are writing fiction, try to determine where there are character inconsistencies, plot holes, or gaps. Number 8. Write your second draft. The second draft is your opportunity to apply revisions and edits. It's also a chance to consider larger, overreaching questions. It's the story arc that can only be answered after you've already written and completed your first draft. Does your book have consistent tone? Is there a theme that can be developed or strengthened? Are there weak parts of the book that can be cut entirely? I know that'll be terrifying. Sometimes this is affectionately known as killing your darlings. The second draft is also a chance to address more granular questions. Does their book have a strong opening hook, an impactful conclusion? Like is each little section something that will lead to the next part of your book? And then finally, once you have mastered this, once you've hit the home run, I take a deep cleansing breath. That's when you go out and publish your book. Once you've finished your final draft, after the revisions, after all the tightening, after all the looking, it's time to publish. With the rise of online marketplaces and e-readers like Kindle, self-publishing has never been easier. Alternatively, if you want to go the traditional route, which I did, You can submit a book proposal to a publishing house, ideally with the help of a literary agent. Just a quick comment on literary agents. I know we're going to be talking them. I know that we're going to have them on our show here. You will more likely find a literary agent if you have a strong online presence. What is strong? That's going to vary from literary agent to literary agent, but make sure that you put yourself out there in one way or another. If you can get one, use one. Of course, all of these 9 steps are the most basic. Like each one has little pieces to them, but don't worry, we'll help you through this, and we have lots more to come. Paula?
Thank you so much for sharing those 9 steps. I know that you've had your own experience here, and I feel like I'm even going to go back and even take some more notes here because there's a lot of complexity, but also simplicity here. So for the viewers that still feel like they don't have time, experience, or capital to invest in writing their own book, we're here for you. We understand. There's a lot of authors that start their journey with a book collaborative. And if you're not familiar with this is a form of writing where a group of authors share creative control of a story. We'll talk about Stephen King for a second. He's absolutely incredibly prolific, but even sometimes he needs help. He's written over 60 full-length novels and 200 short stories, making most authors look like amateurs, at least from a quantity standpoint. But collaboration can be a very rewarding thing and allow you to dip your toes into the writing waters, even when you're looking at someone who sits nearer at the top of that profession.
So, as always, we have our expert panel of fantastic co-hosts, starting with Linda Sunshine West, CEO of Action Takers Publishers, Tim Kellis, author of Equality, The Quest for the Happy Marriage, Hooray Talekima, author, founder of Global Leadership and STEM Consultants, and this week's guest, Terry Shepard, author and host of Authors on the Air. I know we're going to love to hear from each of you on your perspectives on the topic of book collaboratives. Paula?
Let's see. Okay, so when we come back from our break, we're going to continue our conversation on the benefits of our book collaboratives.
An empowering quote from Nelson Mandela stated, "The greatest glory in life lies not in never failing, but rising every time you fall. Encourage, enlighten, and empower."
Welcome back to Bookish Talks. Oh, I am super excited to introduce our next guest, Terry Shepard, on the show. I met Terry a few months ago, and through the process of meeting him, I found out that he does audiobooks. He's one of those people that has those professional voices that does audiobooks. So I had the honor and privilege of having him join us in one of our collaboration books, which are talking about collaborations today, but one of our collaboration books called Invisible No More, Invincible Forevermore, where it's stories from all women. But we had a man's voice come in and do the book. And I wanted to share that because I thought, it'd be interesting to have it from a man's perspective, to have the books shared. So welcome, Terry. I'm super excited to have you for over 4 decades. That's 40 something years, you guys. Terry has been the voice on radio, television, and on film. And he's also the host of the popular Authors on Air podcast. Terry, welcome to the show. Super excited to have you today.
Thank you, Linda. When I heard that I got a chance to spend quality time with you, I was in, absolutely. And, we're talking about book collaboratives. That's another way to think about how collaboratives work. I was so thrilled and honored to be able to give a voice to Invincible Forevermore. And the real gift for me to try and, when you narrate, you actually get inside the characters' heads, was to really get a better understanding for the journey that each of these extraordinary women have taken and how they have not just strived, but they have thrived. So when you think about collaboration, it can be more than just writing a book. It can be the team that surrounds you in creation, those 9 steps we heard about earlier, having accountability buddies, great editors, they're part of your collaborative and they make the art happen. So Linda, it's just great to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. It's our honor. And don't you guys just love his voice? And it's like one of those velvet voices, right? The first time I heard him, I was like, talk more, just talk more, So Terry, what we're curious about is like, what was it that empowered you to write and publish your very first book? And what obstacles did you come across during that process?
So I a lot of us come to writing through trauma, and I had a very traumatic experience in my last job. And so when we came back to Florida to be close to our kids, I was at loose ends. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I was depressed. I have clinical depression. It's a gene in our family. And I felt like my ability to contribute to the world had ended. And my shrink said, you're always trying to get other people to follow their dreams. What's your dream? I didn't know. So I had lunch with my son-in-law and we brainstormed for a while and we came up with this write fiction thing because I could do all the things I used to do. I could feature women. I could feature minorities. I could feature people with various abilities and disabilities. And that was the beginning of Jessica Ramirez. The whole Vega and Captain series began in darkness when I was trying to find a way to be able to do the things that I used to do, but do it in a different way. And that's a really important thing to think about because life is seasons, right, Linda? I mean, we have these seasons of light and darkness, and to be able to, in the darkness, to turn the prism so the light shines again is really, really important.
I love that. And Marie, I think you were going to ask Terry a question here today, right?
Just wanted to ask Terry how, he felt leading a book, a collaborative book, leading woman. How did he feel about it? Is it, a different experience, or is it something that is, normal? What is the process? Is there a different process in leading women through book collaborations?
That's a great question. One of the things that I was afraid of, to tell you the truth, was credibility, right? Here I am, a white guy writing this rainbow cast. And so I wanted to get it right. And part of that meant immersion. I'm very much into method acting. So what I did was I found real life people that embodied the character of my protagonists and the members of my ensemble cast. And I injected myself into their daily routines, into their family lives, and actually lived kind of side by side with them. I think it's impossible for each of us to truly have 100% empathy with people we don't know, because we don't know each other's stories to the level that we probably would like to. But what we can do is we can be good witnesses. We can walk beside them. We can learn to understand where their pain and suffering is and do something to make a difference with that. And that's always been my purpose in life, to lighten the load for other people. And I hope that through books and through my ability to effectively channel real female characters, real minority characters, real characters with varying abilities, I can inspire those people to believe that maybe they could be heroes too.
Yes, Terry, my question about collaborations, what are the advantages for writers in doing it in a collaborative format as opposed to an individual format? I think that's a great thing for us to get our head around.
It is, if you have the right team, it is so much fun. I am working I'm in the middle of a collab right now with another author, and her character in her last book just had a baby, so she's going on maternity leave. So I'm going to inject Jessica, my protagonist, into her world. And what I've done is I've given her primary, she's the lead, right? Everybody, there's a 51% and a 49%. And that 51% makes the decision when you can't come to a decision. And it's been so much fun because we both know each other's characters so well, and we bat these things back and forth. I'll send her a chapter, she'll mark it up, send it back to me. I try to keep my ego out of it and try and think about what's going to make the best story that's true to both of these worlds. And what we often do is we'll split the difference. But the really cool thing about collaboration is you got that extra set of gray matter. You know, you got that group, that other person or those other people in the case of a big collab, which can give you ideas that you never knew you had. And it can turn a good project into a great project.
Terry, at the beginning of the show, we mentioned this new sensation called Booktok, which is a go-to hashtag for everything to do with reading and writing and any kind of questions that you might have on the subject. This is great because the average age of a typical author is 50, and obviously we need new voices and new thoughts. Terry, what can we do to reach young people to write and publish their stories?
Yeah, I mean, that the best thing that you can do is to try and understand their world and where they are. I'm so grateful to have children and grandchildren because now I'm really understanding what it's like to be in 5th grade again and all the interesting dramas associated with that. But that's the real secret, is to try and understand their world. My dad lived to 92, and his last few years he was in an assisted living facility. And every time I'd come to visit him, there were always young people there. And I asked him, I said, Dad, you continue to make these young friends. And he says, look, all my people are dying off or are boring. He says, the people that are having the cool ideas are the next generation. And they're also the ones that are going to have to carry the ball. So they need to hear from me as well. So there's that really neat symbiotic relationship. And if you can build that with, bring into your beta readers or your advanced readers, some people that are in that marketplace and listen to what they share about their lives, their hopes and dreams, you can create stories that would be much more effective. And that's where the whole Booktok hashtag comes in. The last thing I wanted to do was join another social network. But one of the things that I find that TikTok does for me that very few other places do is it actually sells books. When I get something up there or I promote for other people, that's another thing, is I'm always looking for young authors that I can help promote. I hear that my stuff, which gets between 8,000 and 10,000 views a post, generates traction for them. And that's what we want to do, not just for ourselves, but outwardly to the rest of the world.
I am so excited about everything that you're talking about. Plus, your last name is kind of awesome and spelled the right way. But as a podcaster myself, I know that Linda mentioned earlier that you are the host of Authors on the Air podcast. And so I am really, really curious, other than everyone wanting to hear your really smooth, amazing voice, what is the mission behind that podcast? Why did you start that?
Well, I didn't start it. I actually subbed Paula for my partner, Pam Stack, when she was having cataract surgery. I did it for 3 weeks, and she came back and she said, I'm out. This is your show now. And I went into it with a very interesting goal. The reason I started podcasting 22 years ago was when I did my very first podcast, was I wanted to have a platform where I could talk to people that I found interesting and give them a reason to say yes when I asked. We've all played that game. Who would we invite to dinner if we could invite anybody? And a podcast is a place to do that. Paula, on your stuff, I love your podcast because you have zeroed in on the topics and the guests that really resonate with things that I'm interested in. And the way you've constructed it, it holds my attention. So I think that's a value add there, which is the flip side. So I was able to invite authors that I wanted to learn from, build friendships with them as a result of doing a good show. But the other thing is that I was able to share their wisdom and ask questions that other new authors like myself, other developing authors like myself were interested in, and hear the how-tos from them. So my books became better thanks to my podcasting. I'm sure that's the story with you, Paula. Your life is so much better because of all of these people you've met on the air, right?
It's so true. Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
My pleasure. Thanks, guys.
Stay tuned as we come back to Bookish Talks. We're excited to talk about collaborations. Like, what does that even mean, and how can you take advantage of it? I myself am super excited about this one because I write collaboration books. So we look forward to seeing you after the break.
Ralph Waldo Emerson stated, "Unless you try to do something beyond what you've already mastered, you will never grow." Encouraged, enlightened, empowered.
I've talked to a lot of young writers, and what I typically say to them is that there are three things you have to do if you want to write. The first is you have to read a lot. That's where you're going to get your fuel. You're going to sort of ingest those voices and learn what it is to be a writer by reading what other people have written before you. So you have to be a reader if you want to write. The second thing is you have to practice. Writing is like a sport. It's like athletics. If you don't practice, you don't get any better. You can't just talk about doing it. You have to actually sit in the chair and get out the keyboard or get out the pad of paper and actually write. If you can do a little bit every day, that's great. It doesn't have to be a lot, but even a page a day will build up your writing muscles and you'll get better at what you're doing. And the third thing, just as important as the other two, is that you can't give up. A lot of people don't get published. It's not because they couldn't have, it's because they gave up. They didn't keep at it, they didn't finish that story they were thinking about finishing, they got one rejection note, and they thought it was the end of the world. You have to keep going. You have to listen to all those writers who talk about the ream of rejection notes that they had before they finally found the story that they were really meant to tell. And that's the thing too, you have to find the story, not just that you think it would be cool to write, but that sort of grabs you and says, oh, you have to write me. That's the story that you should be writing.
Funding for adlit.org is provided by the Ann B. and Thomas L. Friedman Family Foundation. For more information on adolescent literacy, please visit us online at www.adlit.org.
Brian Tracy once said that optimism is the one quality most associated with success and happiness more than any other. Courage, enlightenment, and power.
We are honored to have back our panel of co-hosts, and we're going to be talking about book collaborations. Welcome to Bookish. My name is Linda Sunshine West. You know, this is such a great topic because collaboration books in particular, is what really propelled not only my business, but my life, my whole entire life, by collaborating with others. So we have our panel here today. I'm Linda Sunshine West, the CEO of Action Takers Publishing. We also have with us Tim Kellis. He's the author of Equality, The Quest for the Happy Marriage. And we have Murray Tulakima, the author, founder of Global Leadership and STEM consultant. And then our first time guest, we have Terry Shepard with us. He's the author and host of Authors on the Air, and also Dr. Larry White, author. So welcome back to Bookish Talk. And what we want to do is we want to talk about perspective, your perspective of collaboration books. What does it mean to you? So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to start with Tim. Tim.
Thank you very much, Linda. I appreciate the opportunity. I actually love this subject. I have had the opportunity to collaborate on a book before. One of the things about writing a book is you're by yourself a lot. You spend a lot of time by yourself, and a lot of the conversations we've heard today is how do you keep motivated, how do you keep moving forward, how do you keep focused. And when you do a book collaboration, it allows you to collaborate with a community of people, with a bunch of other people, and it's also, in my opinion, the easiest way to get a book published, because you're obviously contributing to a portion of the book instead of actually writing the book all yourself. And it's the easiest way to get a book out there onto the market. And not only that, you're building up a community of people as well, so that the group as a whole are able to go out there and get the book marketed, because you know that marketing is such a huge component of getting the book out in the public. So I love book collaborations. I love our topic today, Linda. Thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to share.
Fantastic. I'm glad you didn't steal everybody's thunder, right? Because because there's so many different things about collaboration. So next up, let's bring up Dr. Larry. Dr. Larry, what do you think about collaboration books? What's your perspective on them?
Well, I got to tell you, I got mixed emotions about book collaborations. I've done 3. And what I mean by that, Tim made some great points, but I will tell you, it can be challenging. I have written 3 book collaborations, working on a 4th. And as visionary author of 3 book collaborations, I've worked with over 40 authors, and now they're all best-selling authors. So that's pretty cool just to see folks that didn't have. I think the biggest thing is, like, if you see people that are all things we talked about authors not really being able to finish their book or publish it, having writer's block. As a visionary author, all you have to do is give them so many words to write, maybe it's 2 or 3 pages for the collaboration. But the biggest challenge with these collaborations is making sure that they're all in sync each chapter, because you can get an author that can go off to the left. So what I like to do is give all the contributing authors, as we call them, the theme up front. Give them the theme up front, let them do some research, and have them piggyback their title to the overall theme, and then you coach them along the way. It is very easy, but also just making sure that each chapter from each different person ties back into the main title. So it's great. Again, I've got 3 book collaborations out there that are bestsellers on Amazon, and I'm working on number 4. So my biggest passion about book collaborations is seeing authors get stuck and not able to complete their individual books. So it's really cool to see at the end that it's a success, but it does take a lot of work. So it's fun, and I continue to do it.
That's fantastic. Dr. Larry, thanks for sharing that. Yeah, actually, we're talking about putting a collaboration book called Hodgepodge, Everything But the Kitchen Sink. So that's the theme, right? Is a bunch of hodgepodge. Don't anybody take my idea. Don't anybody take my idea. Okay, next up, we're going to have Terry. Terry, come on up and share with us, what is your take on the collaboration book space? Terry is muted, so...
Oops, I'm sorry about that, Linda.
There you go. Okay, he has a fancy mute button.
It's one of my favorite places to be because I get to work with really cool people that I learn from. So I try and inject myself into projects where I get to do specifically that.
Nice and short answer. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. Next up, Murray. Murray, what's your take on the collaboration book space?
So I don't have a lot of experience with collaboration book. I've been part of one collaboration book. And to add to what was said, I think the added value is on the marketing side, because it's a group of people. We can reach out to more people. We can be more visible. And I think that's been really the advantage of being part of a collaboration book instead of writing a solo book. Most of my book have been solo, but I think the collaboration book has really created the platform to expand and to create more visibility for me, at least when I was part of it.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that, Murray. And now I'll share my perspective. I second what everybody said. And one of the things that I think has been the greatest, and kind of, Terry and I have created this relationship based on a collaboration book. And the collaborations don't end just at the book. And so one of the things I love to do is I like to put on summits based on the book, because I want to do what I can to promote, to market my clients as much as possible. So it's what are we doing after the book comes out? Because when I published my my first book, my solo book, I didn't know really how to push it out there and market it. So now having the marketing techniques to make it so that I can publicize other people as much as possible, that's what my mission is, and what my passion is in doing, is empowering them to put them in front of other audiences. So the collaboration continues after the book is done. And collaborations are a great way to get started. It was mentioned that instead of writing an entire book, you just have to write a certain number of words, that whatever that book is into. And so it's really great opportunities to connect with other people, to keep the conversation going, to keep those relationships going and fostering into future. So with that said, thanks everybody for sharing your ideas about collaboration books. I'm going to throw it on over to Devin to run our segment where we talk about our favorite books, the Bookish segment.
So I guess we're going to jump right in, because every week our co-hosts share their personal book recommendations, and we have some incredible books coming up this week. Because as always, our mission is to encourage you to explore new books, genres, and most importantly, powerful ideas. Murray, what are you recommending this week?
So this week I'm going to recommend an Australian author, Juston Herald, Prosperity on Purpose. And his story is really inspiring. I mean, it's what we call the broke bloke who actually built his wealth from nothing to really becoming one of the most influential business leader in Australia. And in this book, he's actually talking about what prosperity is, because sometimes we tend to associate prosperity to financial, to give it a financial, just the financial aspect. But what he's saying is that it's not just that, it's the attitude, it's the mindset that is coming into it. And if you don't have that, you can't actually sustain, and create wealth into your life. And I'm going to read just a small part of the book where he talked about greed. And he's saying that greed is just one of several areas that I want to highlight as the way that may help when you are having problems, that may help you operate on a better platform so that you will be able to achieve what you desire. And he's saying that greed is a horrible concept to think about. And he said that I was a very greedy person because I didn't have any money when I was young. And the minute I started making money, I decided I should hang on to it, keep it for myself just in case something happened. And I ended up back there where I started. So what he's saying is that you have to open up, because if you don't share your greed, you don't share your knowledge, anything that you've learned through the process, building, this wealth, you just end up losing everything and get to square one. So it's important to look at it as a mindset, as integrating other people, because otherwise you just end up where you started, broke and without money. So that's what I really wanted to share today, and just tell anyone who was listening that from broke to having nothing, you can, yes, gain, have money, create money, but the most important thing, how do you keep it? And keeping it, to keep it, you need the right mindset, and you need to share with other people.
That's an incredible perspective, Murray. Linda, I know you read something fantastic.
I wasn't able to unmute myself. Okay, yes, definitely. The book that I chose this week is called Build Trust by Ron Blackburn. He's a friend of mine, as I mentioned in previous episodes. Probably I'll be mentioning a bunch of my friends because I roll with authors, right? So this book, Build Trust, one of the things I absolutely love about, first of all, is Murray was talking about greed, right? Trust is like part on the opposite side of greed. And so this book, Ron's journey has been absolutely incredible. The people that he's met because of the trust that he's built with his friendships, referrals come his way. He builds multi-million-dollar mansions for people. This is what he does. So he's connected with people. He actually connected me with Richard Dreyfuss, the actor. And that was such a privilege to have that. So I'm going to read, part of his book. It's really about trust in so many different areas. And he talks about currency, that trust is the most valuable currency in the world. Trust it's a currency. So he says currencies have recently dominated nightly news and social media debates as Bitcoin enjoyed a sudden and impressive hike in value, followed by a downturn that was just as sudden. People wanted a piece of the action as talks revolved around the possibility that this, albeit controversial to some, currency might be the currency of the future. Visions of wealth spurred many to invest in it, and some even speculated that Bitcoin would eventually be an international currency that would, at a minimum, deflate the US dollar and at most replace it. And I'm going to skip to the part that I think was really, really important here, is he talks about, in order to be sustainable, they must be backed by something. Trust, money must be backed by something, or at least we used to believe that. With more than 1,300 cryptocurrencies currently being exchanged in the world, there is one currency that is worth more than all of them: trust. We got to build trust. That's the most important. I love this book.
I love that too. That sounds like an incredible read. Thank you, Linda. Tim, I trust you have a wonderful read for us this week.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Devin. And just as y'all get to know me better, my background, I was a Wall Street analyst, And my objective was to write a book that actually logically discusses how to create successful relationships. So there's a lot of psychology in the book. And the last week was the autobiography of Carl Jung. This week, it's called The Mind and the Brain. This book actually is one of the greatest discoveries in the history of psychology. The psychology industry is still based on the biology theory. And with The Mind and the Brain, it actually flips. It actually discovers the mind. The Mind and the Brain is the first book, and it was published in 2002, by the way, but it's the first book or the first piece of knowledge ever discovered, which scientifically proves that our mind is actually what controls our brain and our bodies. It reverses the entire direction of the psychology industry. And what it does is it, in essence, discusses how our mental problems are mentally based, not biologically based. We still hear from the industry disorders, a biological basis for our mental problems. And obviously mental health is such a huge topic of conversation today. This book that was published in 2002 is the book that takes the biology theory to the next step, which is the psychology theory, and actually is the first piece of knowledge that scientifically proves that our mental problems are mentally based. So it's a great conversation. It gets into quantum physics in a way to discuss how our mind works. So anybody that has a real analytical approach to understanding mental health, this is a book that I think everybody should read. So thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to discuss that.
That sounds great, Tim. As soon as you mentioned quantum physics, I have no ability to understand it, but I totally love it. Anyway, let's move on to Paula and see what is going on with her read for this week.
Oh, mine is The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. And when I first started my own personal development journey, this book was a huge piece of my being able to step forward. And it is such an easy read. And some people may have heard of this because back in 2001, Oprah mentioned the book while she was chatting with Ellen DeGeneres. And so it got a lot of traction. But the overarching beliefs around this are about the beliefs of the ancient Toltec people. And there's 4 agreements here. 1, be impeccable with your word. 2, not to take anything personally. 3, don't make assumptions. And 4, always do your best. And I don't want to spoil any of it for you because, like I said, this is a simple, easy read. It's a short audio book, and it is literally the most profound book and life-changing book I've ever read because it helps you to learn how to take radical responsibility.
Paula, this is it, what you just discussed in the Four Agreements is one of the reasons why I personally love it as well. I think that's a wonderful choice. I agree with everybody. I know we're running short on time, but I want to kind of share with this particular book, The War of Art by David Pressfield. Its basic premise, and by the way, this is without question a book that every writer, every performer, every artist should have on their shelves and should read perhaps many times. The basic premise is that writing is easy, sitting down to write is really, really hard. And it really goes into sort of what it is to be, what is the nature of to be somebody who's an artist and how do you do it when there's so many things that are going to try to hold you back. I'm going to read a very brief paragraph here where it talks about, it says, Henry Fonda was still throwing up before each stage performance, even when he was 75. In other words, fear doesn't go away. The warrior and the artist live by the same code of necessity, which dictates that the battle must be fought anew every single day. And what that means is every time that you are going to write, every time you're going to perform, you're probably going to come across something called resistance, which book is about overcoming your natural resistance to creating things. And I think it's really an absolute must for every bookshelf, particularly if you are a writer. Paula? And you're muted.
Well, here we are. I'm here I am. I want my voice to be heard. I was intrigued with what you were saying. And
it sounds like a little bit of resistance, Paula.
Yeah. Want to check out all the books. My list and pile is growing. So for everyone that has joined us today, we hope that you are encouraged to not limit yourself to one literary category, because you don't know what you don't know. And you might have a passion to read, but if you've only had very limited exposure to literature, you might end up writing or reading in a genre that doesn't really suit you. So read and write from a variety of different standpoints. This is going to help you to figure out where you belong.
Thank you, Paula, and thank you for every week joining us on Bookish Talk. We hope we've said something that's going to be meaningful, that will encourage you, enlighten you, and empower you to begin your journey as a writer. Begin to journal, join our Bookish Club, visit us every week, check out old episodes at e360tv.com, and tune in next week when we're going to be sharing some more tips, publishing options that are available. And always visit us on thrivingwomen.com and comment. Tell us what we should be talking about. Help us help you, and join our live chat. Thanks again, everybody. Have a great week.
Choice and opportunity, the foundation of the Capital Choice mission. We believe everyone has the choice to take control of their own financial independence, and we want to give more people the opportunity to achieve their goals. At Capital Choice, we help make financial wellness a reality, and you can be a critical part of the charge, a part of something bigger. Our associates are more than just salespeople to us. We're a team, a family that supports each other, and we have fun doing it. We want you to succeed, so we offer mentorship and training to help you get comfortable with the industry and serving clients. Our goal is to get you to a place of independence, to be in business for yourself. You choose how to grow, and we'll never take that away from you. Your business focus, how you build your team, how you serve clients, how high you climb, full-time versus part-time. The sky's the limit, and we'll be there for help and support along the way. At Capital Choice, we are passionate, empathetic, real. We give everyone equal opportunity, but you have the control and make the decisions. Want to see what you can achieve with more choice and opportunity? Join our team and find freedom with Capital Choice. Your business, your choice.